from Lockport Community Television. Stories from around Western New York that affect your life. This is Studio One with Joanna Toriano.
Welcome to Studio One. I'm your host, Joanna Toriano, and today I have with me Destin Radder. Destin is originally from this area, moved away, and is back. And welcome back. He'll be experiencing he's experienced his first snowfall in a while and all that kind of good stuff. Destin is an acupuncturist and herbologist. And why don't we start right from the beginning and tell me, how did you get involved in this?
Well, I had my first experience with Chinese medicine back when I was in high school, really. I was an avid gymnast. I played football, soccer, and swam competitively, and I had all the injuries that came along with it. And I bounced around from physical therapist to orthopedist, and ultimately my injuries caused me to quit gymnastics. And
Wow.
and I was competing at a relatively high level, so I was training 3-4 hours a day, 5 days a week, and all of a sudden I quit. So I had this large amount of time, and I joined a kung fu school in Clarence, and it was a very traditional school that where they didn't measure rank in colored belts. They, every class ended with 20 minutes of meditation, and herbal formulas permeated the air. I can remember that smell very, very vividly. And actually, I was playing football for Clarence High School, and I re-injured an old hip injury that I had in gymnastics. And my father brought me into the school. And my teacher saw me, and he laid me down on the table and proceeded to work on me for at least a good 45 minutes to an hour. And he put on some sort of herbal remedy that I still to this day don't know what it is and what it was. And after a long period of a long treatment, he told me to stand up and walk around, and it still didn't feel that much better. And he gave me a bag of sticks and twigs and leaves, and told me to go home and run a bath and lay in it for a while, and for about a half hour.
A little crazy?
Oh, well, after going to that school for a little while, anything, it was hard to surprise me. But then, I went home, took the bath, went right to sleep, and and that day it was really hard to walk. It was really that was one of the injuries that I sought treatment for, that I just really couldn't find any relief. And the next morning, I got up, my alarm went off. I got up, I went to the bathroom, started getting ready for school, and about halfway between brushing my teeth, I realized that I got up, I walked to the bathroom with no pain or discomfort. And still to this day, that was probably almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
To this day, it hasn't bothered me. And that was really my first experience with it. It was a good probably 12 to 15 years later that I decided to really get into Chinese medicine as a career. And it was really out of a desire to not only have a career that I could support a family with, but also I could contribute and help my community. I'd been working in film in California for about 8 years previous to that, and although it was a great career and I learned a lot of things, it was a great, I've heard a lot of people say, it was a great job to have in your 20s,
Right.
But then as I started getting older, I started seeing, a lot of the people in there in their third and fourth marriage and never home, and you never know what's, around the corner as far as, availability for work. And I kind of fell upon acupuncture through a friend who was also kind of at that crossroads in her life, and she asked if I wanted to go to an open house and at an acupuncture school in California, and she didn't end up going, but my then girlfriend, who's now my wife, encouraged me to go, and so we went, and And I remember I walked into the school and that same smell
Oh, wow.
just hit me.
Oh, wow.
You know, it was
Yeah.
really funny. It was that same, it was,
Wow.
you know, if you've ever,
Yeah.
been especially in
Yeah.
like around a place where they cook raw herbs as opposed to having pills or something like that, there's a very unique smell. And so that hit me. And then just what people were talking about really spoke to me. And I thought, this is a career, a legitimate career path that I could support hopefully, support a family with and help, the people around me and help actually contribute to my community.
So when you went to this school, how, is it a 2-year school, 3-year school? How long did you have to learn about acupuncture?
Yeah, it was a 4-year school.
Okay.
So it was it's funny, it's a 4-year school. The first year I thought was very difficult because Chinese medicine looks at the body from a very different perspective. It's very, estimates are 5,000 to 3,000 years old. And so the Western mind has a little difficulty conceiving of these philosophies of the body.
So tell me some of them. I'm interested in how it's different. I mean, I know how the Western world looks at it, but I don't know.
Yeah, at the foundation, at the base of Chinese medicine is this concept of what they call qi, and this is an energy. And there's no one word in the English language that can really define it, but you can describe it as a life energy. We say that this qi, this energy, has to flow through your body, and it has to flow through every inch of your body. It nourishes, it warms, it flushes toxins, it regulates organ functions. It's really what drives and animates us. And this circulation is supposed to run through the body at a certain rate, at a certain time, in a certain direction. And if that is sustained, then you are giving your body what it needs to maintain vibrant health. If there's any alteration in the flow, if it slows, if it quickens, if it reverses its flow, then you start setting up, then you are kind of set up for disease or dysfunction or of certain internal organs or bodily systems. So, and the way that you can alter the flow of energy is through environmental conditions, harsh environmental conditions, too hot, too cold, too dry, too damp, emotional trauma, physical trauma, poor lifestyle choices, poor diet.
How do you diagnose though? I mean, because I'm just thinking, Western ways. I mean, you go and they X-ray this and X-ray that or whatever. How do you diagnose a person's problem, or do you use that technology to do it?
Yeah, well, we don't have. There have been attempts to bring lab tests and blood tests into Chinese medicine, but really we didn't have that, 3,000 years ago.
Right.
So really what it is observation, how someone carries themselves, what their face, their coloration is, lots of questions like, if an initial consult with me, for instance, will take over about 90 minutes, and for about an hour of that, we're talking. I'm asking you, I'm interviewing you, and seeing what exactly is going on. And we often ask things that the patient thinks has nothing to do with their problem.
Right. Do you like pencils or pens? Right.
Yeah, and those are all just giving us clues. Because one of the amazing things about Chinese medicine is it has a really intricate diagnostic system. So we try to put you in a category, as to what's going on in your body, and everyone's different. For example, if somebody has a seasonal illness, where we might say you either have a cold or a flu. Well, to us you could have. We'll put you in well, first of all, a seasonal illness, we say we can categorize, we have about 4 or 5 different categories. And then under that, we have what we would call like a constitutional category and how your body works, what's going on in your life, and your strengths and weaknesses. And that could give us a clue as to why you come down with this type of cold, why somebody comes down with a stomach flu more often than somebody in the same house that comes down with a sore throat and runny nose. I had a great example right in front of my face. I have 3-year-old twins, and recently were sick, and one of them, they must have had the same thing because they're in contact with each other constantly, but it manifested in 2 different ways. The initial symptoms were the same, but then what followed was very different and on the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Wow.
And they're very different people, and if you know my twins, they're completely different. They're nowhere near they're similar. So, so we have to ask why. Why, if we use a Western terminology saying it was a bacteria or a virus, we didn't do tests, but we have to assume that it was a similar pathogen that was coming in and attacking. Yet why did it manifest in 2 completely different ways? And we would argue is that those 2 people have very different foundational constitutions. Their bodies run different. They've got different strengths, different weaknesses, and that contributes to what we would think of as an answer as to why one manifested one way and the other manifested the other way. So when we're trying to diagnose someone, there's lots of questions, and we also do. Oftentimes we'll do kind of our lab tests are we take pulses and we look at your tongue. Now our pulses are on both sides and in 3 different positions, and we don't just count beats. We actually have over 25 words that describe different kinds of pulses, how it comes in, how it leaves, the width of it, the depth of the pulse that we feel, the rhythm, the quality, that you feel underneath your fingers as you're feeling for this pulse, and that's kind of like our lab test. That's like our blood test. That's our picture into. Kind of our window into the inner workings of your body. And then the same thing with the tongue. We say different colors in different areas, different whether it's swollen or thin, or you have cracks on your tongue, or you have a thick coat or thin coat, or those were all developed through thousands of years of observation, creating a hypothesis, testing that hypothesis, and seeing if you can get predictable results.
This is very interesting to me because it's totally different from the way the people that I have gone to. It's like, here, write it out, take this, and it's like, I don't like to take that. I want to know, I like the natural way. I like the, how the things that you're saying make sense to me. If anyone's interested, one thing we forgot to mention is that you work out of Women's Medicine of Niagara.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep,
and do you want to give the address for that?
It's at 5320 Military Road in Lewiston. It's right in front of St. Mary's. It's the building right in front of St. Mary's.
And the phone number?
It's 297-9379.
That's what you have.
I just moved here, so I'm like, I have my phone number, my new cell phone. Keep them all straight.
And is it a Monday through Friday thing? Or?
Yeah, it's Monday through Friday, and it is an OBGYN. It's a women's health medical practice, and I do have I specialize in pain management and women's health. So especially on the pain management side, I treat men, I treat women, I treat people of all ages, and you don't have to be a member of the practice. You don't have to be seeing one of the doctors, the Western doctors there, to come and to visit me.
So this particular phone number is for Women's Medicine of Niagara. However, they would just ask for you. Is that correct?
Yeah, the same front desk staff that schedule appointments for the medical doctors will schedule an appointment for me.
Okay, all right. But let's get back to the diagnosis part of it. So basically, it takes you 90 minutes, you said, to sit and talk with somebody and to try to determine how their what their chi is? Am I?
Yeah, just how it flows, what might be impeding it, and in the 90 minutes includes a treatment that's typically about 25 minutes. But it takes, we really Chinese medicine has been described as a holistic medicine a lot, and we try to get a picture of the whole person. And even in an hour of talking, I often don't feel like I have the full picture, and it won't be until maybe 3, 4, 5 appointments down the line that I find out some vital piece of information. Someone in your family died, and then all of a sudden from that point on something happened. And that's often the case because we have a long-standing belief that emotional trauma is just as real as any physical trauma. And I would have to say, and if I put stress in that same category, I venture to guess that almost a majority of people's ailments are caused by, or at least have a major factor is some sort of emotional component. Because we believe that your emotions and how you feel and how you think has a direct impact on your physical body.
It makes me think about like at Christmas time when everybody is under so much stress, to buy this and go here and do that, and that everybody you talk to is sick.
Yeah.
And it's like you don't get that sick over the summertime. Obviously the windows are open and you can, get the germs out that way. But it always amazes me that that's when the big point of sickness is.
Yeah.
Is when people are just they're just pushed
Yeah.
every which way.
And I mean, and one theory that we have is that if you are in colder weather, that is environmental conditions have an impact on your body. And so if it's very cold, and also there is the factor of everyone clustering and inside, because we also do have a theory of something coming in from the outside and impacting your body. But if your immune system, to use a Western word, is a little lower, or if we say if like your defensive chi is a little deficient, then you're more susceptible to anything from the exterior coming and impacting your health. So it would make sense that if through maybe poor diet or stress and emotional trauma, that takes a toll on your body. I mean, if you're stressed for 5 hours, you're often more tired than if you ran for 5 hours. And that takes up a lot of energy that could go into your immune system, that could go into your defensive, the energy that defends your body. And so your defensive, your ability to repel anything that's coming in from the outside is lowered.
Right.
And then tack on stress and running around and and then you're very susceptible.
I know that I've seen a lot of advertisements for that Tai Chi, that whole exercise thing. Is that all related to, is that the chi, the same chi that you're trying to achieve? Is that the same chi that they're trying to achieve through movement?
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, traditional Chinese medicine is really an umbrella term that describes the theories and philosophies about how your body works, and under that umbrella are ways that you can affect, that practitioners can affect your energy in a good way. And acupuncture and herbology are the most common, but there are also movement, physical movements like Tai Chi is one. Tai Chi is very soft and flowing movements. It has a fighting application. There's something called Qigong that is very similar. It's very soft and flowing movements that is strictly medicinal. It doesn't have any fighting aspects to it. So, but they're very similar. Their movement, it's kind of like a Chinese yoga, really.
Oh, okay.
Same concept, different, a different manifestation of the same concept. They also have, dietary therapies. And also there's a Chinese massage that is called Tui Na that is often used. So those are the 5 branches, the 5 main branches that Chinese medical practitioners practice the theories and philosophies of Chinese medicine.
What is the lifespan? Do you know, like from somebody from in China or somebody from here? Do they live longer?
Well,
Because
modern China is a very different place. But as far as theory is concerned, the ancient theories of Chinese medicine say that an average lifespan should be easily over 100.
Wow.
If you're practicing these techniques for if you're taught good diet and good movement and exercise every day, and the old Chinese cultures are very they stress keeping emotions in the middle, not getting too big, not having big swings in emotions, and so they say that over 100 is average.
Wow.
And and I think we see a lot of times when we hear of lifespan, it's really based on an old European concept of lifespan, when there's people in China and India with Ayurvedic medicines, and a lot of the indigenous cultures have their own herbology and other similar techniques. I know Native Americans used to use rose thorns, as kind of like a
acupuncture.
And that's something that they just they developed on their own. And so the concept of lifespan, if in other parts of the world, are very different, even without without modern medicine.
So somebody that comes into the office, I understand that you would be interviewing them and talking to them and asking them things, but then when you get to the acupuncture part of it, can you explain, I just see these tiny little needles, like the pain of it or the lack of pain, or tell me about that.
Yeah, well, while I'm doing the interview, I'm in my head kind of putting together a prescription, an acupuncture prescription. And so I have you lie down on the table and typically take off your shoes and socks, because I like to work with points that are down from the elbows down and the knees down. So I'll typically ask you to pull up your pants over your knees, and ask you to wear clothes that you can actually do that with, and pull up your shirt above your elbows. I'll take alcohol and clean the areas that I'm going to insert the needles. And then, so as far as this is a big question, does it hurt?
Go ahead.
Unfortunately, there's no one answer. I've had people ask me after inserting 2 or 3 needles, like, "Are you going to start?"
Oh, wow.
Where they don't feel it at all. And I've also had people that are quite sensitive. So it can range from you don't feel a thing to some people just report like a slight pressure.
What's the purpose of the needle?
The needles are affecting your flow of energy. And I should say, one thing I struggled with in school, like that beginning year, was, what is this qi? What is this? It's nice to use all these flowery words, life force, and I like to think of qi as the sum total of everything that's circulating through your body. Now, Western medicine is very, very good, and I should say that there's often it seems like Eastern medicine, Western medicine are at a conflict with each other. I don't believe that at all. I think we can work very well together. I believe that Western medicine's strengths are often our weaknesses, and vice versa. Eastern medicine's strengths are often Western medicine's weaknesses. For example, I'm here today, and my children are here because of Western surgical techniques. They're second to none. Life support, second to none. Eastern medicine's strengths, just to name a few, are chronic pain, the conditions and health ailments that you go to every doctor and they can't really find anything, and then we describe it in different terms. Like we say you're out of balance in this part of your area, that part of your, in this area or that area. So Western medicine is very good at focusing in on a single problem. The microscope is a very good symbol of Western medicine. Eastern medicine is very good at stepping back and trying to get the whole picture. So when I think of what is qi, really, I like to think of it as ancient doctors were able to step back and create a term that quantifies, that describes the sum total of everything circulating through your body, be it blood, hormones, lymph, nerve signals. That's kind of how I think of qi. We say if you have a lack of qi circulation in your feet, you're going to have cold feet. Well, Western medicine says basically the same thing. That means they just use different words.
I see.
So often we have similar concepts, but different words. Mm-hmm. So it seems more confusing and conflicting than it really is. Mm-hmm. So when we use any of the branches of Chinese medicine, be it acupuncture, herbology, dietary medicine, any of those 5 branches, we're trying to affect your flow of qi. We're trying to increase it, decrease it, change it to affect your health and bring you back to a more vibrant state of health.
Probably bring you back to how you were born.
Yeah.
When everything was probably working the way it should be working until we polluted it.
Yeah. I mean, pediatrics is actually a fascinating branch of Chinese medicine because you are so pure. You are so,
right.
And we say children get sick quickly, but they also get better quickly.
Yeah, they're
and with very, very little intervention.
If you want to know more and meet with Destin, you can call his office at 297-9379. It's located at 5320 Military Road, Suite 104, and it's in, did you say what building? Is it opposite?
It's in the building right in front of St. Mary's Hospital.
Okay. Thank you very much. We didn't even get into the part of the herbs, which I'm assuming is the solution to some of the problem. But maybe we can have you back another time when we can talk more about that.
That'd be great.
This has been very interesting. I've learned a lot, and if you want more, the number again is 297-9379. Thank you.